Welcome to Spicer and Company. I'm Sean Spicer.
And I'm Lindsay Keith. Democrats have proposed another stimulus bill, and this time it's $3 trillion. That's right, that's a lot of money. The bill is slated to be voted on this Friday, although it's highly unlikely that members of the House will actually have a chance to read through the entire bill.
Yeah, they're at it again, using the same tactic they deployed with Obamacare legislation, where Nancy Pelosi famously implored her colleagues to sign it first and then read it later. This time around, it's 1,800 pages. I want to break this down for you a moment. If you could read 1 page a minute, and I think I'm being awfully generous for a lot of people, because this is not light reading material, not because you're not good readers, but if you could read 1 page a minute, it would take 30 hours straight just to read it, never mind analyze it. Did I mention that the vote is scheduled for Friday? So break out the Red Bull, because that's a lot of late night reading to do in the next 2 days. I think to what we're back about what Nancy Pelosi said about that Obamacare. We need to pass the bill so you can read it. And we're going to drill down and talk about this later in the hour. Meanwhile, some states are looking for money, saying that they're going to go bankrupt and need an immediate bailout to stay afloat. According to the Washington Examiner, quote, Senate Republicans are open to helping cities and states to prevent job losses, but they also want to avoid giving bailouts to governments that spend extravagantly in the past. We welcome one of those Republican senators who will be helping to decide on bailing out those states, Senator Rick Scott of Florida. It's former governor. Rick Scott, welcome to the show. Senator, before we talk about reopening your state, though, I want to ask you about bailing out China. You have said before that we need to buy American. You're urging people not to purchase products that are made in communist China. But one, can we as consumers not do that, meaning that we're getting so much stuff from there? And two, how do we make it so that we don't have to anymore and that we have more of these businesses producing things in America?
Sean, first off, we have to start asking our retailers where things are made, and then we have to do everything we can to buy American. And for sure, don't buy anything from communist China. Think about communist China. They steal our jobs, steal our technology. They put people in prison for their religion. They try to take away the basic rights of Hong Kong citizens. And now they were not transparent, and Americans died, and a lot of people lost their jobs. Buy American products. Now, I have a bill that would require companies like Amazon to disclose where things are made so you can make a decision. I'm hoping companies like Walmart will go back to what Sam Walton used to do, and he would promote American products. Because I believe Americans are fed up with communist China like I am, and will hold them accountable and also help American workers by buying American.
So, Senator, first of all, I want to say I appreciate your leadership on this, and I hope more Americans will do this. But I think to some degree, it's a magnet. You walk into a store, you want the cheapest good. When you were governor of Florida, you attracted a lot of people and a lot of companies to Florida because you made Florida very attractive to do business in. What we need to do is make it attractive for U.S. companies to stay here by making it more tax friendly to want to stay here, manufacture here, and hire Americans.
Our companies added, while I was governor, 1.7 million jobs. And I went out and I recruited companies from all over the country. There are some states that are easier, like New York and Illinois and California, to recruit from. But what we did was we clearly have better weather in Florida. And we have I cut regulations. I stopped the permitting problems. But we also cut taxes by $10 billion. And I said, how can I help you as a business succeed so you add your jobs in Florida? And it worked.
It did. And I think we need to do more of that as a country, because there's a reason. At the end of the day, this is a bottom line issue. We've got to make it more attractive for companies to stay in America. It is disgusting that we are going over to China to get the very protective gear from a disease that they covered up. It has to stop. And I think on a federal level, we need to cut taxes, cut regulations, do exactly what you did in Florida on a national level. But let me pivot for a moment to something else that you've been leading on. The WHO has at best covered up for China, if not helped promote China through their propaganda. What are you doing to help expose what the WHO did and make sure it doesn't happen again?
Well, clearly the WHO is not the World Health Organization. It's the propaganda arm for the Communist Party of China. That's what they've become. So I'm on the Homeland Security Committee. Ron Johnson is the chair. He's agreed that I will lead an effort to investigate them. So tell me, here's what I'm asking. What was the WHO's pandemic plan? Did they follow it? When did they get information? And when did they tell us when the problem was? To this day, they're still parroting communist China. And I know that internally they have different information. So we're going to hold them accountable. This is it's our tax dollars, but two, it's our health. You should expect the World Health Organization to help us prevent a pandemic in this country.
So you know what's bothering me is, A, we've got this problem to begin with. They covered it up. The World Health Organization, as you rightly state, helps support that. Now we're going to them for the PPE. We're going to them for our prescription drugs. I think you've addressed that. Here's the bigger problem for me right now. We're spending now trillions of dollars creating more debt. And who's going to buy it up? China. We're actually making the problem worse.
Now, Sean, it's crazy. I mean, we spent $3 trillion already. The people that are unemployed, we've got to help them. I grew up in a very poor family. I never met my dad. We lived in public housing. I want to take care of the people that struggle. Number two, we have to help our small businesses. But $3 trillion. We've got to think about how we're spending this money. And now Pelosi has another $3 trillion. We're going to end this year with at least maybe a $4 trillion budget deficit. And on top of that, $25 to $26 trillion worth of debt. There's a day of reckoning. Our kids, our grandkids, they're going to pay for this. There's no way in our lifetime we can pay for this. You would never do this to your family.
Well, Governor, and speaking of this, when we saw through the last PPP bill, the companies that weren't ever intended to, not just companies, but the Kennedy Center, universities like Harvard got their paws into it and started to get out money that was intended for small businesses. Yeah. Now we've got the issue with states and localities potentially using this as a bailout. When you were governor, you were a good steward with your money. Now we've got to worry about big states getting their hand in the kitty to deal with problems that they had prior to the pandemic. How do we ensure that the money goes to help the people and the organizations that need it, but not as an excuse to bail out states or localities that had a problem before the pandemic?
Sean, here's what we've done. One, we've given the states a total of $150 billion to use for the response to the coronavirus. Number two is we've given them $50 billion for their Medicaid program. Probably their Medicaid costs are down. We've given them $30 billion for their K-12 and higher education. Their costs are already down. So what we've got now is we've got governors like Andrew Cuomo, who he got elected when I did as governor back in 2010. And in those 8 years, what happened? He was mad at me all the time because I would come to New York and I would recruit companies and people, and they flocked to Florida. So here's what he wants now. Even though I have 2 to 3 million more people living in Florida, and he's got a budget double mine, he wants more.
Right.
He wants more of your money. So you come, you get sick and tired of New York taxes, you move to Florida, and now Andrew Cuomo's back. He says, I still want your taxes. Right. I still want you to pay for all my excesses. I don't want to balance that budget. I want to borrow more money, and you, Floridians, another state, you're going to pay for my excesses. That's what he wants. There's
a reason they moved to Florida. Congressman, Senator, thank you for your leadership on this. I really appreciate you holding China and the WHO accountable. Continue to be safe.
Good luck with the show, Sean.
Thank you. When we return, Michigan Congressman Paul Mitchell is here. I think he's officially off Gretchen Whitmer's Christmas card list. Why? Because he's suing her. We're going to explain this later. Plus, tired of waiting for his state to reopen, a man in Michigan thinks all businesses are essential, and he's fed up and had enough. He started a grassroots campaign, putting up billboards, and has called for Michigan to take yourself to work. On May 21st, he'll be here to tell us how this one-man protest has created a movement. And later, country music legend Larry Gatlin and the challenges that are occurring right now for all of these performers during the pandemic. We'll be right back.